We look forward to identifying opportunities to work together with Ms. Carano in the near future. These are not the words you expect to hear from a global media juggernaut like Disney about an actress they very publicly and humiliatingly fired just 3 years ago. In 2021, Gina Carano, the breakout star of the smash hit series The Mandalorian, was unceremoniously dumped from the Star Wars universe. Her crime? A controversial social media post.
Her career seemed over, another casualty of Hollywood's ruthless cancel culture. But in a stunning reversal that has sent shockwaves from the executive suites of Burbank to the sound stages of Pinewood, Carano didn't just fight back, she won. And she won big. Today, we are pulling back the velvet rope to expose the politically charged battleground that is modern Hollywood.
We're asking the one question that agents, producers, and stars are all whispering behind closed doors. Is it finally safe to be a conservative in Tinseltown? In this deep dive, we will dissect the bombshell lawsuit that brought the mighty House of Mouse to its knees. We will expose the staggering double standards that allow left-wing stars to preach their politics without fear, while right-leaning actors are forced into a secret, fearful silence. And we will investigate whether Gina Carano's incredible victory is a true sea change for freedom of speech, or just a momentary blip before the industry's powerful progressive orthodoxy reasserts its control. Stick with us, because this story is about far more than just one actress. It's about a cultural war being waged in the heart of our entertainment industry, and one battle has just ended in a shocking victory. The saga began in February of 2021.
Gina Carano, a former mixed martial artist turned beloved actress for her role as Cara Dune, shared a post on Instagram. The post suggested that the persecution of Jews in Nazi Germany didn't start with mass murder, but with the slow, insidious process of neighbors and society turning against one another simply for their political views.
The final line asked, "How is that any different from hating someone for their political views?" For her critics, this was a grotesque trivialization of the Holocaust. For Disney, it was the final straw. Lucasfilm, owned by Disney, swiftly released a statement calling her posts abhorrent and unacceptable. And just like that, her character was written out of the Star Wars galaxy, future projects scrapped, and her action figures discontinued. To many, it was a clear-cut case of an employee violating company standards with an offensive and hyperbolic comparison. But for Carano and her supporters, the issue was never about the content of that one post. It was about the breathtaking hypocrisy. You see, at the very same time, Carano's co-star on The Mandalorian, the show's leading man, Pedro Pascal, was a prolific and highly emotional political commentator on his own social media. He, too, had used Holocaust comparisons to make his political points, at one point tweeting a picture from 1945 Germany next to one of children in cages at the US border from 2018, with the caption, "This is America." The implication was identical in structure to Carano's, using the ultimate historical atrocity to condemn a contemporary political situation. Yet, Pascal, an actor firmly and vocally on the Hollywood left, faced zero repercussions. No angry hashtags, no public condemnations from his bosses at Disney, no threat to his burgeoning career, which has seen him become the face of another huge franchise with HBO's The Last of Us. The contrast was not just stark, it was an indictment of the entire corporate structure at Disney. It demonstrated a clear, unwritten policy. Progressive political speech, no matter how hyperbolic or inflammatory, is protected and even encouraged, while conservative speech is a fireable offense. This blatant double standard became the central pillar of her wrongful termination lawsuit against Disney, a legal battle that looked like a true David versus Goliath showdown. But this David had a secret weapon. Elon Musk, the new owner of the social media platform X, had publicly promised to fund the legal fees of anyone fired for expressing their views on his site. His financial backing transformed the case from a symbolic protest into a genuine existential threat to Disney's HR policies. The result? A complete and total climb down. While the exact terms are sealed, the settlement was undoubtedly generous. But the real victory was in Disney's public statement.
That single sentence, expressing a desire to work together with Miss Carano in the near future, was more than just corporate jargon. It was a white flag, a tacit admission that they had overstepped, and a clear signal to the rest of the industry that firing conservative talent might now come with a very, very high price. And it wasn't just a settlement. After being fired, Carano immediately partnered with the conservative media company The Daily Wire to produce and star in her own film, Terror on the Prairie, sending a message that there are now alternative pipelines for talent that Hollywood casts out. Her victory was twofold: financial vindication from her old employer and creative freedom with a new one. Carano herself posted a triumphant statement on X, writing, "I hope this brings some healing to the force," and a simple, powerful conclusion: "Yes, I'm smiling." This case blows the lid off a long-simmering issue in Hollywood. For decades, the industry has wrestled with its closets. It's a well-known piece of Hollywood history that for many years, gay actors were strongly advised by their agents and managers to keep their sexuality a secret. The fear was that it would alienate mainstream audiences, that a leading man couldn't be believable as a romantic hero if the public knew he was gay. This led to countless stories of sham marriages, secret lives, and immense personal pain. But that paradigm has been utterly shattered. Today, actors like Jonathan Bailey, Luke Evans, Kate McKinnon, and Nkuti Gatwa are not just out and proud, they are wildly successful mainstream stars whose sexuality is a celebrated part of their identity, not a barrier to their careers. The old closet has been kicked down, but has a new one been built in its place? Is it now the conservatives who are forced to hide who they are for fear of professional ruin? The evidence is compelling. While there are certainly established, older actors who are openly conservative or have supported Donald Trump, think of icons like Mel Gibson, Dennis Quaid, or Kelsey Grammer, they are largely from a generation that established their careers before the current hyper-politicized era. Among younger, rising A-listers, openly right-wing sympathies are almost unheard of. The risk is simply too great. Look no further than the case of Sydney Sweeney, the Emmy-nominated star of Euphoria and The White Lotus. When it was revealed that Sweeney was a registered Republican, the liberal corners of the internet exploded in performative anger. This was compounded by a controversy that perfectly encapsulates the absurdity of the situation. Sweeney posted innocent photos from her mother's surprise 60th birthday party, a hoedown-themed celebration. Online sleuths zoomed in on the background of one photo to find a guest wearing a parody "Make 60 Great Again" hat and another man in a Blue Lives Matter shirt. That was it. That was the crime. The online mob descended, accusing Sweeney of harboring a family of racists and fascists. The vitriol and fury directed at this young actress would make you believe she was a card-carrying fascist, a propagandist for some totalitarian regime. In reality, she was simply a supporter of one of the two major political parties in the United States, who had no control over what guests at a family party wore. The backlash was a stark warning to any other young actor with similar views: stay silent or face the mob. The level of vitriol here is truly astounding. If you find this double standard as fascinating and frustrating as we do, hit that like button to let us know. It really helps us gauge what topics you want to see more of. This chilling effect creates a bizarre and deeply unbalanced ecosystem. Hollywood has always been a left-leaning industry. That's no secret. Its most vocal practitioners, like Mark Ruffalo or Pedro Pascal, can share their unvarnished, often extreme, left-wing opinions without a hint of pushback from the executives and studios who hire them. In fact, it can even enhance their brand. Others, like the actor John Cusack, have seen their entire public persona shift. Once the beloved, quirky indie darling of the 1990s, Cusack has transformed into a furious, non-stop keyboard warrior whose career has arguably been damaged by the sheer intensity of his political invective. But for those on the other side of the aisle, silence is the only safe option. This has given rise to one of Hollywood's most intriguing and least-known secrets, a clandestine society of conservatives known, in the words of founding member John Foyt, as the Friends of Abe. This isn't a fantasy, it's a real group,
a secret dining club and networking society for actors, writers, and filmmakers who hold right-wing views but are terrified of sharing them publicly. The very existence of such a group speaks volumes about the climate of fear. Imagine being a successful artist, a leading figure in your field, but having to meet in secret to discuss your political beliefs, like some kind of dissident cell in an oppressive state. The article aptly describes it as a McCarthyite club in reverse. It's worth remembering the original McCarthy era. From the late 1940s to the mid-1950s, the House Un-American Activities Committee held hearings that destroyed careers. The Hollywood 10, a group of screenwriters and directors, were cited for contempt of Congress and blacklisted after refusing to answer questions about their alleged communist ties. Hundreds more were placed on unofficial blacklists by studio heads, unable to find work for years, all based on accusation and innuendo. The dynamic is now flipped. It's not the government creating a blacklist, but the industry's internal culture, unofficially punishing those who don't conform to its progressive ideology. The list of suspected members or sympathizers of this group is long, and as the article states, any reader of this could probably name a dozen leading figures who are likely to vote Republican. These are not fringe players, they are household names who smile on red carpets while hiding a core part of their identity. All because they don't want to lose a successful career over how they voted. So, we return to our central question. Does Gina Carano's victory signal a permanent sea change? Is the dam finally breaking? There are signs that point to yes. One of the most powerful forces in Hollywood is, and always has been, money. And there is a clear, underserved, and highly motivated market for content that appeals to the American right. The consistent success of faith-based films is a perfect example. Films like I Can Only Imagine, which made over $83 million on a $7 million budget, or Sound of Freedom, which became a grassroots blockbuster in 2023, prove that there is a massive audience that feels ignored by mainstream Hollywood. And then there's the Mel Gibson factor. The news that his long-awaited sequel to The Passion of the Christ, currently titled Resurrection, has begun filming for a 2027 release is monumental. The original film was a global phenomenon, earning over $600 million worldwide, and the sequel is guaranteed to be, as the article puts it, catnip for its considerable fanbase. Furthermore, the rise of alternative production houses like The Daily Wire, which is building its own studio system specifically for non-woke entertainment, represents a structural challenge to Hollywood's monopoly. These are not small indie projects. They represent a significant financial and cultural power that studios cannot ignore forever. However, it's just as possible that these are isolated examples, not a new trend. Niche markets that exist alongside but don't fundamentally change the mainstream industry. It's possible that Carano's case was a perfect storm, a determined plaintiff, a billionaire backer, and a defendant in Disney that made a clear hypocritical error. Future cases may not be so clear-cut. The fear that has been instilled in the industry for years won't vanish overnight. The real measure of change, the true sign that the culture is shifting, won't be another lawsuit or another faith-based hit. The battle for the soul of Hollywood is far from over. Will we see more stars come out of the political closet? Or will the fear remain? This isn't just about celebrities. It's about whether our primary cultural storytellers are allowed to reflect a diversity of thought, or only a narrow, pre-approved orthodoxy. We'll be tracking every development. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss our next deep dive into the stories the mainstream media won't touch. The ultimate litmus test will be far more subtle. True change will arrive when the industry is populated by as many Sydney Sweeneys as it is by Scarlett Johanssons, an actress known for her progressive views. It will be the day when an actor's Republican registration or conservative viewpoint is regarded as completely unexceptional, a personal detail like their favorite food or where they grew up, not a scarlet letter that marks them for public condemnation and professional exile. It's the moment when being a Hollywood conservative is no longer seen as an oxymoron, or worse, a firing offense. Only then will the velvet rope be truly lifted for everyone, regardless of what they believe. The question that remains, hanging over the glittering hills of Hollywood,
is just how long will that day take to arrive?